Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GraphQL Meetup for October. My name is Eve Porcello. I am super excited to be here today. We have just an obscene list of amazing speakers that are going to be sharing their great information with us today. So I don't want to talk too much at the beginning. I should shut up and talk about the fact that this is, as you say in the chat, a GraphQL party, and I can't stop the party from starting. So we're going to give a quick shout out to this.labs, who co-sponsors this event with us. The team over there is wonderful at getting the word out, and we thank you for helping us be part of this opportunity. Today, we're going to be doing a kind of special meetup where we're going to talk about some non-tech things. So we're going to enjoy several different talks about non-tech things. So without any further ado, let's get to it. This is a list of our speakers for today. And the first one on the list is going to be Kurt Kempel. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to turn it over to Kurt.
Awesome. Cool. Hey, everyone. It is an absolute pleasure to be joining you. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I'm very excited to talk about something that's, well, kind of tech related a little bit, but not coding, not anything like that, and something I'm pretty passionate about, which is live streaming. So I have been doing this for, wow, seems like a while now. Oh yeah, real quick, I'm watching chat on YouTube at least. So I don't know, I guess like if you have a quick question or something, let me know and I'll try and squeeze it in. Audio is faint. They're saying my audio is quiet. Let me get like right up on it. Is that a lot better? Maybe that will help. Not sure what's going on there. Yeah, so again, my name is Curtis Kempel. I'm a developer advocate at Apollo currently and a sometimes live streamer. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why I enjoy streaming, both from a personal and work perspective for dev advocacy, like what kind of content you can create, and then getting started with streaming, kind of what are the best options that you could do. So why I enjoy streaming. Let's start there. So I'm a big fan of pair programming, and I find that streaming actually has a lot of similarities to pair programming. Only you're doing it with a group as opposed to one other individual. Oftentimes it forces me to articulate what I'm doing, think about it, voice it out loud. Actually, side benefit, that's actually really good for job interviews. A lot of times, those technical interviews and algorithms that we all hate. What really they're trying to get down to is, are you capable of communicating what's going on inside your head, how you're working through a problem, and how well you are at explaining things that you have some domain knowledge over. So this is a really good tool to help you with that. Also, I enjoy the questions. I love having conversations about the things that I work on and the stuff that I'm doing. Sometimes there's no one in chat, and that's cool too. I still articulate and kind of voice out what I'm doing and still get that practice. But sometimes, chat's popping, and you got to get a lot of good questions and conversations going. And I've had, streams just like derail and go all the way into left field. But it was a very awesome conversation. Generally, it was like exploring something new or helping somebody solve a problem, or they're helping me solve problems. Also, I'm a lazy developer, and if you have a chat full of devs, normally they'll just give you the answer to all the problems you have, and you don't even have to Google it. So that's a win. Yeah, so getting away from why I enjoy it so much, that's from a work perspective, I really enjoy it because uh, for me, dev advocacy is about like clearing pathways for developers. It's like making sure that they can be successful with whatever it is you're advocating for, with the least amount of friction, right? Like at the end of the day, that's what it is. And streaming is a very loose form of content that allows you to create a lot of content very quickly, about certain topics that might not quite fit within a doc set, or it's kind of a niche problem, but you know that there are people who are experiencing it. So it's just a great way to like increase volume of problems that you solve for your company. And on that, you can also, what's up? We got Sean Grove and Will Johnson. Hey, everybody. How's it going? On top of that, you can, have varying forms of content. You could do a series on something. You could do like one-offs, AMAs and panels. There's a lot of opportunity for a wide range of content too, which is nice. Um, and then one bonus thing is that oftentimes streams are very long normally, and they can be kind of hard to watch. But you might do something that's like really useful within a stream, like setting up a new project with Create React App, or setting up an Apollo server, or adding Tailwind CSS to a project. You can cut out those snippets and just like upload those as YouTube videos or highlights on Twitch, and so you get like residual content. So that's why some of the reasons why I think it's just a good source to create content. And lastly, I want to wrap up with getting started streaming. So what does that look like? We're just going to talk very high level. I'm not going to get into the depths of it. The confidence it took to, yeah, press the red button. Yeah, that's a very good point, Kat. Yeah, I'm gonna deviate from getting started real quick to answer, kind of respond to this, which is, yeah, it could take a lot of courage to know. I actually don't look at my viewership count. You can turn that off in a lot of the different places, the apps. And then I almost like kind of treat it like I'm just pair programming with someone, or like I'm trying to rubber duck things. So I'll say them out loud to myself. It takes getting used to for sure, but I do encourage folks to try it. That actually does bring me up to a good point, which is like streaming is not for everyone. Just like I don't really enjoy writing content. I do it, but like it's not like something that I'm super inspired by. But whereas I am with streaming, I love streaming. I could do it all day. I can't believe people pay me to do it. It seems silly. So see if it's the right fit for you. Might not be, but definitely try to give it a try. So from getting started, it goes from like having fully managed. So you can have fully managed setup, which is actually kind of what we're doing right now. So y'all can't see behind the scenes, but we're using an app called StreamYard, which is a UI. People can log in, or like you give them an invite, almost like joining a meeting, and then you can stream out through that. So that's fully managed. There's also Restream.io, which I believe is like fully managed streaming service as well. So that's what I consider like fully managed. Then you have kind of like in the middle, which is you're still responsible for a lot of like the way things look, like building the UI and loading in some of your sources, like your audio and video, and that's Twitch Studio. So Twitch, again, this does kind of limit you to Twitch as opposed to being able to stream to any platform. But the UI that they have that they've created integrates really well with Twitch. So you just, add a source for your video in your desktop and style it the way you want, and you're kind of ready to go. So I consider that kind of being like in the middle of managed. Like you log in with Twitch, it automatically sets up your settings and optimizes them for you. You don't have to be like a video broadcasting specialist to like stream some, React Dev or whatever, GraphQL development. And then lastly, you have basically going full blown broadcast studio, which is something like Streamlabs OBS or OBS. These programs are very powerful in what you can do as far as customizing your broadcast, but they're also pretty complex. There's a lot of good resources to do that. And if you are considering streaming, I highly recommend joining the Party Corgi Network Discord, which I think is like discord.gg/partycorgi. Yeah, there's a lot of content creators in there, people more than willing to answer any questions about getting started with streaming. And I think that is it for me. We're getting close up to 10 minutes, and so I want to be respectful of time. Thank you all so much for coming to my talk. This has been awesome. And yeah, thanks.
Should I unmute my mic? I'm not ready to stream, I guess. But hopefully that gave everybody a good idea of how to get started with that stuff. There's so many options, I feel like, with streaming, but you make
A
it
lot.
look very good with your awesome setup there. And yeah,
Well,
hopefully,
thank you.
I feel like, yeah, streaming wise, this is an area that I really want to get more into, and I have a lot to learn. But thank you so much
Yeah.
for
I
sharing what you know.
No worries. And real quick, one note, just because you brought up like the setup, you
Yeah.
don't have to start with this either.
Yeah.
Start with minimal equipment because this is like a black hole. Like before you know it, you'll have invested way more money than you probably should in like a fancy setup. But make sure it's for you before you do that. And that's it.
Yeah.
I wrap it up.
Very smart. Very smart pitch. So
Yeah.
thank you to Kurt. Everybody give him some claps in that chat, definitely. And let's go ahead and bring on Michael. So Michael has an awesome talk planned for us, and I will shut up so he can get to it. Let me add you to the stream. We're streaming. I'm kicking you out, Kurt. Thank you for everything. Um, so, Michael, how's it going today?
It's going great. We're doing some virtual learning, and there's nothing but fun times with that. So
Nice. What are you teaching today?
we wrapped up language arts, and then we hit up social studies, and
Nice.
these I think we're just realizing like the whole virtual learning space is just an area where apparently not many there's just not a whole lot of ecosystem there. It's like you get these two software programs that do their best, and boy do they try.
That's so funny. Well, thank you so much for being here. Why don't I let you speak? Everybody say hello to Michael.
Hey everybody. For those of you that don't know me, or follow me on Twitter, you can find me pretty much anywhere online at MT Leando, MT and then my last name. But enough of the plugs. Today we're going to be talking about this beast, this furry looking thing. And it's part one of two pieces. So there's that, and then you get pretty much this skateboard looking thing without the wheels. And this is my balance board. This has been my little hobby. There we go. My little hobby since quarantine. I got this in April, and it's been a blast. I didn't realize how horrible my balance was until I actually picked this up. So keeping with the theme of like non-tech stuff, this is just one of those cool little gadgets that doesn't require a USB port, and I've loved it. So quick little sort of 101 on these. When you first get them, you're gonna fall probably. So if you do it, I highly recommend just working on a balance board on carpet because it's going to not give you as much movement. So you can really focus on your stability, and you don't have to be a fitness junkie or anything like that to get into these. I highly recommend them for anybody. And they don't really do a whole bunch in terms of toning. It's really just those small little muscle fibers that improve your posture and just keep you feeling good. It's almost like a meditation session once you get fairly robust at it. So again, I've had this since April. I do it for about, I don't know, 30 minutes a day. And it's gotten to the point where I can code while being on my balance board. It's been really, really fun. Um, However, I had this whole thing set up where I was going to be like this funny costume and show you what it was like. But how about I just show you live and not recorded what it's going to be like? So if I do fall, bear with me. But hopefully it's not that bad. So give me 1 second. Let's just adjust some things. Oh, doggo. Okay, so step one, find a nice area. My floor is what's going to be working for today's session. Step two, get your balance board set up. There's part one. Here's part two. And it lays on pretty much just like a skateboard. Now, what I want to show you is that when you first start, okay, here's what you're probably going to be doing. You're kind of going to get on it and you do one of these, right? Like your typical skateboard stance. And what I want to encourage you to do is to just give it little nudges. Because as you get more and more brave and you over nudge, you're basically gonna like do one of these and teeter over, which is fine. That's perfectly okay. And then you head back, right? But eventually you'll get to a point where you figure out what that middle section is like. And you can really just start balancing. And it doesn't require a lot. It's just small little muscle movements that are keeping me stable. And as you get better, you can sort of rock. You can go to one side. You can go to the other. And you really do get to stay in control of the entire session. Now, as you get more and more comfortable, you want to get curious and you want to start doing things like tricks. So you can even give it a little jump and just leave the board entirely. Or if you want to turn it into a workout session, then you can even mix in some squats. And this is where you really start to engage your core. So again, you start from micro movements. My cat is moving my computer, and I think my quality of life would be better without it. I'm just kidding. I love my cat. But you do have to go. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. So a couple of things that are keeping me safe is that I do have these little guardrails right here. You can kind of see it better that way. That way, I don't fall off my board entirely. And I'm just using those micro adjustments. Kind of getting ready, getting set up. And then when I'm ready to make the big plunge, you kind of go even on it. All right. Let's get reestablished. So you know that feeling of when you get out of the swimming pool and you have swimming legs and it's really hard to like walk, or when you do a long bike ride and it's really hard to just sort of go for a run immediately afterwards. That's pretty much what you experience when you get done working with one of those. It's 15 minutes, even working so much on this lateral movement, that doing something as far as walking definitely takes its toll on you. And it takes a little bit of adjusting. It's just kind of a weird movement that happens. But to be expected, you're working your core, you're working muscles. Those lateral muscles don't get used a whole lot. If you think about it, how often do we actually move side to side? But it's something you do want to keep in mind because that's something that your body cares about, right? Yeah, Kurt, you should definitely get one. But that's all I got. You're right. I'm glad I didn't crash into the TV. I do have a couple battle scars, Diana, but that's my talk, and I hope you appreciate it.
Yay! That was so awesome. Oh my gosh. Yes, very brave to do it by the TV, as Carl said. I
To
feel
do it live.
like that could have gone extremely badly. However,
Yeah.
you have it dialed in, so we shouldn't be worried about you at all. That's awesome. So, do you do any, did you say this? Do you do any skateboarding at all, or just balance board stuff?
Funny enough, I've never been on a skateboard.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I have no idea what that sensation is like.
My husband Alex started skateboarding when he was 30, which is not maybe the time to get into it. And he broke his arm. He dislocated his shoulder.
Oh, man.
Yeah, he ended up at the hospital a lot during that skateboarding year. And I think he's over it. But the balance board seems like a nice kind of halfway.
Yeah. I was going to say 30. That's like developer speak, right? It's like, oh, 30, I'm too old to get into programming. But you know, if he broke all those bones, maybe there's some truth to that.
Yeah, totally. 100%. That's so funny. Well, everybody give it up for Michael. Thank you so much for being here. I know you have a million things going on, and I appreciate you making the time
Thanks for
and
having me.
selling some balance boards. I feel like you should have a affiliate link to share with people today.
Missed opportunity.
But awesome. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
So we just had our next speaker drop off. So I may be a bad host right now and put people on the spot to go next. Carl, are you ready? Can we hit it? Awesome.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So Carl is joining us today. He has an amazing talk planned, so I'll be quiet and turn it over to you. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I have a slide deck. Okay, it looks like it's working. Cool. All right, so in the last year or so, I've been getting into astrophotography, which is taking pictures of stars. It's pretty awesome. I love it. So does anyone know why, I guess people can't really give feedback, but so why is this slide red? Like why did I pick this color scheme? It's because red light actually really dramatically affects your night vision less than blue or white light. So red lights are really a must for doing any sort of astrophotography. It actually takes your eyes about 20 minutes to fully adjust from seeing any light to pitch darkness. So for stargazing and all of that, it really takes a significant amount of time between putting all the lights away and actually being able to see what the night sky looks like. So this is an example of an amazing astrophotography shot that I did not take. So this is actually 5 exposures stacked on top of each other, one for the bottom half of the frame with the dock and the woman, and 4 more photos, each 4-minute exposures of the night sky. So then those get stacked together, they get processed in Photoshop or some other fancy tool, and really bring out all of those details. So this is about 16 minutes of light in one frame, which is pretty good. That's like a decent amount of light. Yeah, so astrophotography does take a lot of gear though, in order to get this long exposure. So within 15 minutes, the night sky actually visibly rotates just to the plain eye. So what you really need is not just a camera, but also some gear. So this is a photo of my astro gear. My mom took this photo. It's an extremely mom photo, and I love it. So up top, I've got my camera. It's a Canon 60D, which I actually had modified. There's a mail-in service that will break the camera apart and remove an infrared and ultraviolet filter that's inside the camera body. Because when you're taking most photos, you don't want infrared and ultraviolet light. You just want the visible light. But there's actually a lot of other spectrums of light that are coming in from the night sky. So by removing that filter, I can get just that little bit more light in. It's not a ton, but I think it comes through in some pretty interesting colors in photos. So I actually really appreciate doing it. Yeah, below that, I've got my little star tracker. That's a powered mount. I've actually got it here. So this guy goes on top of this silly thing. It slots in like that. And then I have to rotate it so that it points, so that this thing is directly in line with the North Star. And then there's a motor in this base that spins at exactly the same rate as the Earth. And that perfectly counteracts the Earth's rotation so that when I point my camera at a star, it stays pointed at that star. And it's actually got, this takes about 20 minutes to set up, so I'm not going to even try and do it. But it's got a little slot in it where I can put this viewfinder scope, which I'm going to see if this works. This may not work well, but so it actually has just a little viewfinder thing. I don't think the camera's going to see through it well. Oh yeah, just a little bit. But yeah, one tricky thing, it actually is inverted. So when you're looking through that, everything's upside down, which makes it really hard to adjust. But yeah, so even very small amounts of imprecision in pointing at the right star can come out in photos, which is really frustrating and there's been a lot of frustrations with this. You have to go out somewhere dark. You have to spend a lot of time focusing your lens and aligning the shot. And then if you touch anything, then that alignment is now not quite right. I've got some examples of this later on. But yeah, there's a certain amount of gear that's really required to do long exposures of the night sky. But with pretty much any camera and this, and this star tracker mount, you can, that's the basics. That's everything needed to get some pretty good stuff. So I see a question in chat. How far away from the city do you have to go for nice photos at night? Very far. You can get away with it pretty close, but to really get photos like this, that's very difficult to do. So you can see actually in this photo over to the right, there's that orange glow. Not the Milky Way, but over to the extreme right. That's probably light pollution, and that could be as little as a small town. So you can see over on the left, by contrast, you can barely even see where the trees and the trees end and the night sky starts. And there's probably nothing in rain, no lights coming from behind those trees for 30, 40 miles. It really does not take very much light to cause visible light pollution. This is my gear. I just thought I'd highlight a little bit more of what I have. Most of this, like the lenses, I have got a flash, the camera body, some filters and whatever. Most of that I just had because I got into photography in college, and then all of this sat dormant for a couple of years. This thing, the plastic angled thing, that's a recent buy. I bought a book about doing astrophotography, and it recommended this device, the name of which I'm blanking on right now. But it's something that you overlay on top of the lens, something like that. And because of the different angles, when you point it at stars, the light actually reflects off the upright part of those slats and causes a little starburst pattern. And the starburst pattern gets misaligned just a little bit based on if it's in focus or not. So that's just a little signal you can use for whether it's in focus. And it's really hard to focus on a black, completely, invisible frame. So that focusing was actually one of the things that took me a lot of practice to get better at. And this device actually helped quite a bit. So yeah, and I also have, one of my sillier purchases was a laser sight that mounts on the hot shoes. So I put a little video up. It's totally ridiculous. It's not super practical. I haven't gotten a ton of use out of it, but it's also only like 60 bucks. The reason I got it was because I was having a lot of difficulty pointing the camera in the general portion of the night sky that I want, because the sky's it's really big and cameras don't see very much of it. So I got that to help me compose shots, but it's a little bright, it's a little inaccurate, it's a little cheap. Neat concept, hasn't worked super well. But yeah, so once you have photos, then you have to process them. And processing is at least as difficult as actually capturing the photos themselves. Because you have to, once you get it all set up and you have a remote shutter so you don't jostle it and do all the different things to avoid introducing error into your system that you've set up, it's pretty much on autopilot. So this is an example of the processing. So this is one photo on the left, a single 5-minute exposure. And on the right is taking those stacked photos. This is probably about as good as you can, on the photo on the left, that's probably about as good as you can get in terms of editing it. That's actually phenomenally good. And I would be very curious to see what the source of these images are, because even just seeing that amount of star dust, I don't even know what you would really call it. Even just seeing that amount is very difficult to do without extremely dark skies. And so this is 65, or this is allegedly 65 stacked 5-minute exposures for 5.5 hours of continuously exposed night sky. Well, actually, it may not even be continuously exposed. One of the interesting things about astrophotography is that the pro tier, in a lot of photography, it's separated into like consumer grade, prosumer, and professional. But for astrophotography, the professionals are scientists. So the upper range of this is absolutely ludicrously high. Like, it's not like you can get the $5,000 lens and the $15,000 camera body and the $10,000 star tracker mount that can support 150 pounds. And like, really, when you get up into the professional tier stuff like this, you're building scientific equipment, and just the ceiling on it is ludicrously high. So to demonstrate how difficult processing is, I actually have 3 real photos that were my best attempts at processing a single shoot. So this was one of my first successful astrophotography outings. This is an 8-minute exposure of the night sky. And this is more or less what it looked like, to my naked eye out there. I could see a lot of stars, over to the upper right above the roof. There's a little cluster up there. This is more or less what it looked like, so I was pretty happy with it. It's a little dim. The contrast on the stars isn't super great, but I was pretty happy with it. This was after buying a book and doing some practice and just trying to get a little bit better at processing. And you can really see how many more stars I was able to pull out. And I saw this as a massive improvement, and saw it as evidence of my growing skills and amazing abilities. So then I kept reading my Astro book, and I realized that this was still only a single frame, and I had taken almost an hour's worth of photos. So I tried to stack them, and lo and behold, it leveled up again by a significant amount. And each of these I spent probably 30, 40 minutes editing on, and just to see off the same source material, these three outcomes really drove home to me like, wow, there's a lot of moving pieces to this. And one thing you'll notice, these two photos are basically static. That's because they're the same image, just reprocessed. This one, you can see the night sky appears to rotate. And you can also see that the foreground gets basically indistinct. It goes from pretty clearly a traffic pole or a power line and some trees to just kind of a monster. That's actually because of the stacking. You can sort of see, the edge of the tree there as it sort of tiles over. And that's also a visual representation of how much the night sky moves. So like I said, this is 6 photos that are each 8-minute exposures. So about 48 minutes, give or take a bit of me fiddling in between photos. Just shy of an hour of starlight, and that's how much the trees moved in that time. So that's why you need one of these powered mounts, is because, if you're doing a 5-minute exposure, it's going to move so much that you don't get stars, you get trails. So I actually had to manually correct this. I very slightly misaligned my star tracker mount. And so that led to me getting just a little bit of star trails. And I actually got insanely lucky, because there's no reason for the center of the rotation here to be in the center of the frame. There's actually, so I am attempting to counter the rotation of the Earth with a powered mount, and it got misaligned in just exactly the right way to where the center of the frame is the center of rotation. And that was insanely lucky. I actually tried to do a similar manual correction on other shoots and was not able to. So that was just wildly lucky on my part. And you can also see, especially when we're on the left, how the star trails are a little bit squiggly. That is because I had gotten up and fiddled with the in-between shots. I checked how they looked, saw if they were in focus, whatever. And just touching the camera, pressing a couple of buttons was enough to visibly misalign the photo, or the subsequent photo. So when I was correcting them, I had to account for that as well. Yeah, so this is what I've been able to get just off a couple of months of practice and going out and trial and error. And I've been able to improve a lot, both through editing techniques and in terms of what time it takes for me to get set up and actually get up and taking photos. When I started, it was comically bad. I would take probably 30, 40 minutes to actually get a lens dialed in, focused at the right part of the sky. And then, then I jostled the frame, or I accidentally touched the lens a little bit and then have to start all over because I don't know if it's in focus anymore and I don't want to burn the rest of the night. So that is a whole skill in and of itself. Then there's the fact that I live right here. I live in literally the brightest part of the country, possibly the world. I've seen New York called the brightest city in the world. So this map it's not based on light emitted, it's based on light pollution in a given spot. So it's actually significantly more liberal on representing light. If you look at a lot of emission, these hotspots will be much smaller. But one thing I found fascinating about this is that I didn't realize how much more densely populated the eastern half of the US. And it really is the half. Like there's a very, I just love how clear that vertical line is down the entire country. But for this reason, I've been really wanting to go out west and just spend a couple days in the desert because it's so much darker. It's orders of magnitude darker out there than it is in the west. And keen eyes may notice that there are 3 places going along the Appalachian Mountains that are significantly darker. These are actually observatories for the most part. The northernmost one is in the Adirondacks, directly above the Arrow. And that's just mountain. I'm not actually sure if there's a, I see Diana says Big Bend. I don't quite get that reference. But yeah, it's very remote. And the furthest south dark space to the left of the arrowhead, that is actually a radio telescope. I actually visited that about a year and a half ago. It's a massive, massive, enormous radio telescope that is scanning the night sky for radio signals. And they actually have a like 20-mile radius radio blackout. So there's no cell towers, there's no Wi-Fi. No one is allowed to have like a handheld radio. You're not allowed to have a microwave because it emits so much RF noise. And to enforce this, they have people in pickups who drive around with a bunch of antennas on it and just do, I think they'd call it war driving, where they just drive around and try and triangulate where these source of radio frequencies are coming from, which I think is just fascinating. Oh, and one more fun fact that I love. They are required to use diesel trucks on that radio telescope site, the compound, because they don't use spark plugs. Diesel engines, they ignite by pure compression, whereas fuel-injected engines have a spark plug. And the spark plug, the emitting sparks, produces so much, or produces a measurable amount of radio signal, radio noise, and the telescope picks it up. So they are not allowed to drive those around the truck or around the compound. But so if you really want to level up images and get super high quality photos, where is the darkest, most stable place in the universe? Space. So all of the best astrophotography images come out of space-based telescopes. Right now, the state of the art is the Hubble. One thing I love about this image that I just noticed while pasting it in, you can't see those people who are reflected. They're not in the shot. So they are standing way, way, way down frame in front of this very slightly parabolic mirror being reflected and magnified. So I just think that's, it's a huge frame. And this image on the right is an image captured by Hubble. And I love this. I can't remember, I know there's a name for this image. I forget what it's called. But I think it's just so absolutely fascinating to think that when we look at the night sky, most of what we're looking at are not stars. They're actually galaxies. So each individual point of light we're seeing is billions or trillions of stars. And this is one of the reasons why the argument over is there intelligent life in the universe, to me just seemed like obviously yes. Like even if we are the only intelligent life in the Milky Way, like look at how many galaxies are in that one photo. And this, that photo represents like this on a canvas that is like this big. So it's absolutely ludicrous how much is out there. And we actually have some exciting news developing very, very slowly. So the James Webb Space Telescope is scheduled to launch in October 2021. I think it's been delayed a few times, so it may be delayed again. But you can see down on the left, there's a worker on like a scissor lift. So like compare that to the Hubble mirror. This is what, 8, 9, 10 feet across. This is, what, 40? So it's such a massive improvement over what space-based telescopes are already available that we're going to be able to see phenomenally more detailed images of space, even than this one on the right here. So it's a really exciting time for space photography. And yeah, and also just stargazing is really great. I rented a car I accidentally got a pickup because that's just what they had available. And we put up some string lights, put down some camper mats, and just had a really great time. I really can't recommend enough just going out into the middle of nowhere, somewhere that doesn't have cell service or Wi-Fi, and just stare at the night sky for a couple of hours. I think everyone would be happier if they did that once in a while. I've gone way longer than I meant to, so sorry. Thanks for listening to me. Yeah, that's my talk. Thanks very much.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Carl. I'm wondering, like, do you have any trips that, like, if you were to go somewhere to get the best photo, do you have like a bucket list trip that you're thinking about?
Not specifically.
Yeah.
One photo that I want to see if I do have a list of trips. I'm not sure if I have any specifically for. Yeah. All the best astrophotography images that I've seen have some kind of really fantastic foreground. So
Yeah.
it's like, you go to a national park and you've got Yosemite as the foreground for this beautiful shot of the Milky Way. So that's getting out to national parks and just taking some photos with some absolutely gorgeous nature in front of some gorgeous stars is really what I'd like.
Totally. That's awesome. Yeah. Diana was mentioning Big Bend in Texas. There's really dark skies there, and like Idaho and things like that. And I feel like I kind of missed the vote on the stargazing part because I'm so obsessed with the moon. I'm like, we got to go out like camping or whatever in the full moon. And then our friend who's a photographer is like, no, that's not where it's at. You need to go the opposite and go look at the Milky Way. Yeah.
I'm with your friend here. It's actually really, once you've been in a totally moonless night for where you're making an effort to not have any external light sources.
Yeah.
It really is mind-boggling how bright the moon is. It is, a quarter as bright as the sun. It's really bright.
That's so funny. Well, thank you so much for your time today. That was awesome. I'm going to bring on our next speaker. Ojo, you there?
Yeah, Eve, I'm here.
All right. Are you ready to go? Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, take it away.
I'm live here. All right. Hi, everyone. And I'm so happy to be here. And it's just so surreal to be here with you, sharing this non-tech GraphQL talk with you guys. Let me share my screen and share what I have to talk about today. I know you all know about how Eve loves to talk about GraphQL a lot, and how Carl has talked about streaming, how Carl just finished talking about, like photography of stars and all. And this is people who are passionate about the stuff that they do. And you could see like how he was talking, and he was so happy sharing the things he has learned over the time with all of us. And we all were watching, listening to him. So my talk is going to be focused on encouraging you all to pursue your passions. And why am I doing this at a time like this is because at some point I was at the point where I was down between like, should I continue teaching or should I continue like coding as a software developer or building products? But I come to realize like when I teach, I'm happy, and a lot of people get into tech via me teaching or helping them. So that's why I'm really like talking about this, because at this time I am sure that like my career, I want to become like a developer educator where I help people get into tech more, teach people about JavaScript, React, and GraphQL and all of those things. So one thing I want you to know is that most times in search of a purposeful living, all you need to do is just be passionate enough about something that matters to you. I've shared how I follow Eve a lot, and she's so passionate about GraphQL. And I'm wondering, like, why is she so just passionate about GraphQL? And it's just because at that time, at that point, that is what really, really, really matters to her. And setting everyone up with GraphQL. I've read Eve's book, like I'm reading it the third time, and this is how much I'm draining so much from our passion for for GraphQL. I follow Kurt a lot also. He's passionate about GraphQL, streaming, encouraging everyone to, to stream their idea out to everybody out there. We all know about Steve Jobs. We all know about how he was just so passionate about getting the computer to everybody, and that led to this revolution of modern revolution that we have here. Okay. Let me shift to the next slide here. Sorry. Okay. So why this topic? I've talked about that because of what I'm passing through, trying to focus on teaching, because I know that when I teach, I'm much more happy, and I help other people a lot there by teaching. Also, one thing I also want everyone to also know is, yeah, there's a saying where you have to follow your passions. Yeah, it's too common and very common. And sometimes people are asking, I don't even know my passion. I don't know. But what I need you to understand is you need to broaden your horizon. Try plenty things. When you start trying things, then from there you can discover something that you are really, really passionate about, that you want to talk to other people about. And for example, this meetup talks about, everybody has been talking about the things that they're passionate about, and you can see how everybody is lighted and happy by by sharing the things that they are personally happy about. So try to broaden your horizon. If you're a developer, try to get into writing. If you are just a tech enthusiast, get into photography, video editing, and try things out. Things that would that would make you look so at first you might not be so good. At first you might be a nub, but later on you know that you will discover something about yourself, whether you're happy doing the things you're doing, or whether you can build a product or something out of what you are, what you're trying to do. Another thing is, don't be afraid. Like, as I'm talking, I'm trying to I'm scared, but I know that this is what I like doing, sharing the things that matter to me, talking about tech stuff, teaching people about getting into web development, talking about JavaScript and all. These are the things that that matters to me, and that's why I'm doing this. And I want to leave you with something that happened between, I think, Elon Musk and Peter Thiel, where they just got the money from their PayPal business, and they were trying out their new car. And Elon Musk was asking Peter Thiel, how fast can this car go? And it's just because he's not afraid of anything. He has conquered that fear of being afraid. And that is why you can see the things that Elon Musk has really gotten into in this life. There are things that are so daring. And that is why he can, start I think up to 6 or 7 companies that he's running at this time, is because he's not afraid. He's not afraid trying things. He's not afraid to talk about things. He's not afraid to, to create things that matters to other people. And, lastly, the world needs something authentic from you. What makes the world a better place is because everybody try to create things that is genuine to them. We are gathered here because Eve is doing commenting, watching the stream wherever you are, just taking the time out to watch this stream, join the meetup, is because you're happy and you're passionate about something, maybe passionate about GraphQL, passionate about learning something different. So I try to encourage you all to try to do something about the things you like. If it's skating, just anything, snowboarding, anything you think it's going to make you happy, it's going to make you feel like you're fulfilled and all. Just try to to do more of those things. And I know that by the next time we're having a kind of meetup like this, there'll be more people sharing the things that they are passionate about. And what else? I think that's all from me. Thank you everyone for listening. I appreciate you all.
That was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel like that's kind of why I wanted to do this meetup, right? Is that there's so many awesome people who are interested in different things outside of tech, and having interests outside of tech makes our work stronger. We're building apps for people, right? And we want them to, like the people who built Strava, the app that tracks your bike rides and things like that, they got into that because they're passionate about being athletes and they're passionate about getting outside and they want to make it better for them. So yeah, it's really cool to see that you're passionate about teaching, and I can relate to feeling scared to go teach people stuff because it's like, is that a good idea? Should we do that? But that's
Yeah.
great. Well, nice to meet
All
you
right.
officially, and thank you so much for being here.
All right.
Killed
Thank
it.
you for doing this. Yeah.
Awesome. So everybody give a big hand to our speaker. I'm going to bring on our final speaker today, Jamie. Are you ready
I
to
think I'm ready.
talk about some fun stuff?
Yeah. So,
Okay, cool. Well, welcome everybody, and I'll get out of here.
hey, yeah, thanks for having me. And following on from that talk, I think this is kind of what I'm going to talk about, is also kind of pursuing your passion as well. So, since growing up, I have kind of wanted to always follow the footsteps of my grandfather, who was a self-taught builder. He was in the trade. So over a year ago, or just about a year ago, I purchased this house. It didn't look like anything. You know, it was overgrown. It had been left stale for many years, and I wanted to purchase this house so my family could move in, my two daughters and wife. And I kind of wanted to embark on a project. And my grandfather, ever since I was young, used to teach me how to wire up plugs and do kinds of plumbing and joinery and hang doors and anything he can do around the home he could do, and that was his trade, his skill. So he taught me from a very young age, and I was really always wanted a house to be able to kind of do these projects in, because for him at home, that's kind of what he did, and it was just fun to watch growing up. So the first project, when I moved in, this is actually what the house looked like. There was an old person who had lived here for maybe 60 or 70 years, and she hadn't really done anything with the house. That you can see here, it was very kind of dated and needed modernizing. So I got to work, really not without knowing what to do, just kind of diving in there to begin to kind of decorate. As I began to strip the paper off the walls, I began to notice a few things. One of the things being that the walls had never been skimmed with plaster at all before, so painting it wasn't gonna have the outcome, the desired effect that I would want. So I kind of had to move on and kind of decide what to do, and it was a very challenging process, and I was a bit let down when I got to that point. I was like, I've done all this hard work stripping the walls and wanting to getting decorated for my daughter, having just moved into this house. And then I kind of said, well, actually, I'm standing here doing this, and I noticed a squeak at the door. So, I kind of lifted the carpet, had a look under the floorboard, and noticed that one of the joists under the floor had moved. So every time you walked past it, it was kind of just making this horrible noise. And as you can see on the left here, there was like an old duct for a heating system that was no longer in use. So what do? Well, that's no longer in use, and like a developer, you want to refactor. So I pulled the thing apart, and I got rid of that kind of that tech debt, or the house debt that was there. I got rid of that and kind of stripped it out, and began to lay down a new some new joists and flooring. And I've kind of had to learn all of this. My grandfather was around a lot of the time to show me what to do, and I really kind of wanted him to show me, and then go off and try and do it myself. And he would never just do it for me. He would kind of watch and kind of guide me in the right way. And I really like that, and that's probably one of the passion that I like to do with my live streaming and teaching people code and things. I kind of get that from him and what he taught me. And you can see on the right hand side, this was kind of the bedroom that I had kind of stripped all the wallpaper off, and that was kind of put on hold as I did this other project. And then I got back to things. I got back to doing the room. I'd had it skimmed, and there was fresh plaster on the walls. And as you can kind of see down here, I've had to do some kind of plumbing myself, just kind of move in the central heating system differently and pipe all that up. And you can see I started to put some of the paint on the walls. and decorate. And I've done mostly all of this myself. Haven't learned all these kind of skills from my grandfather. And I was completely blown away with the end result. You can see my granddad there in the background. We're actually going to replace the window in the house for the bedroom. You can see on the right there, it's got the kind of the new window in that we bought. So what I want to do in every room in the house was kind of modernize it, make it fresh, and update it, and absolutely redo everything to get it to kind of a modern standard of today. And I'm pretty pleased with the outcome, and thanks to my granddad, I was able to do most of this. So that's kind of a passion that I've kind of absorbed, and that he was very passionate about. And then you can see, obviously, my little daughter there. She is over the moon with her bedroom. You can see we've even got new doors on there. And above the door, there used to be kind of a glass, what you call a fan light, and that let light through. I removed that, redone the door frames, and hung the doors myself. And I've learned all of that from my granddad and things. So that was kind of a project I did and picked up on. So the next project, or project 3, as I had that mid-project, was to actually embark on our living room. So our lounge area, when we moved in, it didn't have all this furniture, but this was an image from, the real estate website when the house was for sale. You can see how dated this is, it needed a lot of work doing as well, as you can imagine. It was in the same, disrepair as the bedroom upstairs. So I start to lift the carpet, and then notice that some of the floor also wasn't level. And it used to annoy me that I would stand in one corner and then a lamp at the other end of the room would move. So I took the entire floorboards up to kind of get an understanding of what's going on. It was just really interesting to pull all that up. And one of the problems we had was that the room was cold. So kind of what do you do then? Well, my granddad taught me a little bit about the insulation and all of that, and we pulled up all the joists because they were all rotted and they were warped and they needed replacing. So we replaced it all. In a true mid-project, I kind of went on a tangent because I was really getting annoyed with the bathroom upstairs. So I ended up knocking a wall down, and as you can see, plumbing in some a new kind of towel rail in there as well. And this is all stuff I've just learned from YouTube and from my grandfather, and the internet's an amazing source of knowledge. So you can see after I'd done that, I had built the wall, and I think I did this during lunch, just kind of built this wall up. And obviously over the years I've learned the sizing and how to frame things and put things together. So yeah, it was an interesting ride. But back to the main project, I then started to measure things up for having a TV on the wall. I'd always wanted this TV on the wall you couldn't see any wires, so I had to calculate where things would go. And I learned how to wire everything up and do that. And in the UK, as long as you're competent at doing this, then you don't need any contractors to kind of do this stuff. It's all kind of covered. So as long as you're competent in doing it, which I was at the time, and hopefully I still am, I was able to kind of do that myself. But I thought everything through and prepared everything and set everything aside. And as you can see on the left of this image, we've got the joist back down and everything's level. Then we began to insulate this, and that has now helped dramatically. As the cold weather starts to come in, the room is a lot warmer. And then you can see, obviously, my granddad showed me what to do. He started me off, and then I was kind of followed along and learnt from him what to do. And you can see on the right, that's the new floor completely down, and you can see it's totally different to what it was in the beginning. And now it's just ready for decorating. There was one problem though. You probably didn't notice in the other image, but we had to remove the radiator so it could radiate more of that heat around the room better. And we did a few calculations to help there. But the radiator wasn't actually getting any heat. And also at the time, you'll see in my next project, there's some pipes that we put to go through the wall into the garage. And yeah, it was interesting. We had to pull the floor up and do all this stuff again. And you can kind of see the end result was it was freshly decorated and modernized, and kind of got the end result that I wanted because I planned and used a lot of those skills I had been taught. And because I'm passionate about it, about joinery, about the DIY, doing DIY projects around the house, I kind of just pursued through it and got there. And even mitering, learn how to miter and scribe skirting boards, baseboards. That was very interesting and something I'm passionate about now, just so it looks right. And hung new doors, transferred that skill that I'd learned previously onto the next thing to hang the next door. And yeah, I thought, well, it's about time that I relax. During all this, I just moved into this house. I didn't really have anywhere to work. So of April this year, this was my home office. I was sat in the garage on my MacBook and didn't really have much room to do anything. So I was sitting in a garage with just junk that wasn't being used. And my wife at the time, she had said to me, can we use some of the garage to make a room where I can do the laundry and just a junk room, basically a laundry room. So we had all this space with nothing really going on, and I was kind of just plonked in the middle, and it was cold, and it was pretty dingy. So kind of start to pull things apart as I do, and start to pull things down brick by brick and kind of see what was going on under all of the stuff that was hidden, and then start to cut a hole out into the main house from the garage, and then frame up a wall to create this utility room, adding in some plumbing that I'd learned how to do, and just learning again, like I said before, YouTube was a great source to learn how to do all this stuff, and I'd acquire the tools along the way to do this stuff, and it's so much fun. And again, I put insulation in there because I'd learned that from the previous project, that the house does get a little bit cold because we're kind of raised and whatever. Continue to put the floor down and build that out, and then this is kind of the in progress shot that I've got at the moment. But as you can see through the door on the right, it's still just the garage. So I decided, well, this could be my office. So let's embark on the journey. So putting down the floor and insulating that, putting some walls on the side, putting some stud walls on the side with cabling running through, insulating it all, adding a door, plastering the walls, and you can see that's what it was like before. We start to dig some foundations to build a wall, and you can see on the right we've got this wall, and then that was the kind of the view from the inside as I'd done the wall, built the wall up the front for the kind of the window. And as you can see in that image on the right, there was tons of kind of timber and stuff and insulation boards lying around the house. And yeah, my wife wasn't too pleased, but these things have to be done. And then continued to frame out and got the window in, and that was kind of the next big achievement. At this point, I was really pleased that kind of got this far with the guidance from my granddad. And at the time, he wasn't able to help with this, and this was kind of my lockdown COVID project. I was doing this while the UK was in lockdown, so I didn't really have much to do other than work, and to get my mind off that, at weekends, evenings, I would spend all my free time working on this. And obviously my granddad was on the end of the phone to help me, but unfortunately he started to take ill, and he was unfortunately was diagnosed with cancer in June, and he started to fall ill. So I really began to want to finish this project and get it perfect, and I kind of just hustled on, worked really hard in all the free time I had in evenings and weekends to get this finished. And as you can see here, it's pretty much nearly ready for plastering and decorating. And then again, you can see it's plastered. I put the skirting on, everything that my granddad taught me, and then that's kind of the stuff I'd worked on, and just kind of reliving all the skills I'd learned. And then you can see the before and after. There's various reasons why it ended up looking where the bricks aren't tied in. The house just isn't level. The bricks don't line up, and it would have looked really silly. So that was stuff I calculated and kind of took the decision to inset them, and then eventually we'll render that. So it'll just kind of be a grey color or something in the end. And then we ended up like this, where I've got a setup where I can just come, chill, relax in a place where I can work, and I'm stood here now in this room, and I'm able just to kind of work from here, and it's a huge upgrade from what I had before, and I'm really kind of pleased with the outcome. And I was pleased that my granddad could actually come and see it, before, unfortunately, he'd passed away on the 18th of September, so only a few weeks ago. But I was really pleased, and I'm really thankful for everything he had done and shown me, which kind of gives me the encouragement to go further and share online with everything I know about coding, live stream, and all of that. And I appreciate all of the kind of effort Kurt went into kind of giving those tips. So thanks, Kurt. I'll go ahead and kind of make note of that and do that with my streams. And yeah, thanks for having me. This kind of just talk of DIY that you can do it, you can get into it, and just find something you're passionate about that isn't code, because it does help. It's a good kind of way to relax. Can't hear you.
Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, thank you so much for the talk, and we're really sorry for your loss, obviously. I think it's so nice to be able to share hobbies with people, and it's a nice tribute to him to give us all an insight into what you're doing. I saw everything you're working on, and I felt very overwhelmed, but I think that I think that working on those home projects, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's got a lot of connotations to programming, where you start to fix one thing and then you move to another.
Totally.
And that's kind of the same passion, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think you're going to stream your house remodeling tips and stuff coming up, or?
I have thought about kind of just doing like a time lapse of a project.
Yeah.
But just doing the project itself is very time consuming, and even I forgot to take photos at certain points, which I'm upset about. But
yeah,
it would be pretty awesome. But there's tons of people on YouTube who do that, and I spend hours watching that. So go check those out for the real tips.
Totally. I think ever since getting YouTube on the regular TV, we just watch every video about how to do everything, and it's really fun. But thank you so much for your talk today, Jamie. That was awesome, and I'm sure you gave people a lot of good ideas. It makes me want to take weird spaces in my house and turn them into rad offices like you've done. So that was amazing. I think I'm very inspired by everybody's talk, because we're all coming from having all these different passions, and I think that it makes our work better if we're more well-rounded, and that we focus on things outside of code, because we can bring interesting ideas back to work if we're not just banging our head against the wall with code all day. I feel like every time I leave my desk to work on something else, cooking or whatever, I come back a little refreshed, and that hopefully is what everyone took away from today. So, having said all of that, I want to thank everybody so much for being part of our meetup for today. I want to thank our speakers. I have all of their Twitter handles here, so please go follow them. They're all amazing to follow, and they'll teach you a lot of good things. If you're joining us in the chat, I want to thank you so much for your questions throughout. We'll be back. We're skipping next month because next month's session falls on the US election, and I don't want to be anywhere near here. I want to encourage everybody to vote and do all of that day. So we'll see you back here in December. But I want to thank all of our speakers. I'm going to throw you up on the stream again. Everybody who's still here, great talks today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you so much.